Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So we have finished the first quarter of the year. We are 1/4 of the way through, and it is time to go over my first quarter reading wrap up. So we are going to talk about all of the books that I read in the months of January, February, and March. And specifically, we're only going to talk about books that I actually finished reading in those months. So if I started them before January but finished them in the first quarter, those will count. But if I started them in the first quarter and did not finish them until after March, then those will not be on this list. They will be in a later wrap up. So we're just going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to go through all of these in the order in which I finished them. So the first book that I have is The Advent of Winter, a fantasy anthology. So this is essentially a collection of fantasy short stories that are in some way related to Christmas or winter. And the intention for this is to read these during Advent, so to read one story a day during Advent leading up to Christmas, which I did start doing, but I didn't actually end up finishing it. So if you have seen my fourth quarter wrap up for last year, I did have kind of a slower reading month in December, just because I had so much going on. So while I did start this in December, I didn't actually finish the last few stories until after Christmas, actually after New Year's, so until January. But overall, I really liked this. Obviously, when you have a short story collection, there are going to be some stories that you prefer over others, but I think the concept was really neat. I liked that there were some illustrations here and there for some of the stories. I just think it was a really fun experience to have a small little story to then read that is directly related to the season that you're in, and you have a little bit of that each day. I think that was a really neat concept. Again, I did enjoy some of the stories more than others. Some of them I did feel were not really to my taste or up my alley exactly. I didn't dislike any of them, but some of them were just, when it comes to a short story, I prefer, it's not that I don't like grim stories, like grim events happening, but I do tend to prefer happy or at least hopeful endings, and some of these stories were a bit too grim in the form of a short story for my personal taste, just because you don't really get that happy sort of resolution. But I did really like them, and I thought that the different concepts and like the amount of creativity in here and getting to see stories from so many different authors surrounding the same season was really cool. There were some that I wished that I had more. Like as soon as I finished them, I was like, oh man, I really want more of this. I want more about these characters. I want to know what happens to them now. Which, is a good thing in a way when you read a short story, because it means that the author managed to grab your attention and get you invested in a very short amount of time. But then it also is kind of saddening because you're like, there isn't any more for this. Except one of the stories in here, Cold Silver for Souls by Tori Tekken. I'll put the link for her announcement video in the description. But she has announced that she is releasing a full novel based on that short story. And I think it's actually going to be a series. I was so excited because that was one of the stories that as soon as I finished it, I was just like, I need to know what happens with this character. I think that the potential there that she sets up in that story for I don't really want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. Short stories are so easy to spoil. But I think that the potential she sets up is just so intriguing, and I want to know what happens next. So I'm so excited that she did actually herself feel that she needed more from it. So that's really exciting. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think that it was such a really cool idea. I'm really glad I backed the Kickstarter for it. The only complaint I have is, I think this is obviously a gorgeous book, but unfortunately I noticed after I read it that some of the authors' names on the spine have started to wear off where my hand rests, and that does bug me a little bit because I feel like, you're paying money for this and it should be able to resist like natural wear and tear just from normal use. Um, but other than that, that's the only thing. But yes, I did really enjoy this. I am really glad that I read it. It would be really cool if they did anthologies for the other seasons as well. But I don't know if that's in the works. I think this may have just been a special um, project for Advent specifically. But yeah, that is the Advent of Winter. Okay, then the next book that I finished this quarter, I actually started and finished, is The Mysteries by Bill Watterson and John Cashed. So my brother actually contacted me and my mom and was like, y'all need to get a copy of this book. You need to read it. It is a very short picture book. So it is illustrated by both of these two creators, and the story is by Bill Watterson. And it has a very unique illustration style. It almost gives it like a sort of horror feel. I'll just give you an example. But he was like, y'all have to read this. It's so good. Like, it says so much in such a tiny little book. So my mom ordered a copy and she read it, and then she was like, Aubrey, you do actually have to read this. And so then I read it and I did really enjoy it. It just took a few minutes. It's very short, as you saw from what I showed. There are only a few words every other page, and then the page next to it is an illustration. But it's about this town who lives in fear of these things called the mysteries, or this kingdom that lives in fear of these things called the mysteries. And this king continuously sends his knights out to try to capture a mystery, and finally one of them does. And then they begin to study them, and they decide that they're not to be feared, and then they start to actually have a lot of progress that occurs. So there is a lot of commentary here about essentially our relationship as humans with the natural world and with things that we don't understand, and how desperately we try to harness them and kind of rein them in and take them in under our control. But can we actually ever really do that? And I thought it was really powerful the way that it is told, almost like it's a children's story. But just how, like I said, how much it can say in such a short little book in so few words. So I highly recommend this. I do think that it's really, really interesting. I would not classify this as horror, although I do think it is on places like Storygraph. And I have seen it listed as horror other places online. I would say it's more because it's almost just this kind of creepy, sort of spooky feeling to it, but not exactly. Like, I didn't find this scary. I just found it kind of profound. But I could see how someone could find it a little spooky. But I would definitely not classify it as horror. So if you've seen this around and you have avoided reading it because you are afraid that it's going to be really frightening and really horrific, it is not. Like I said, the images kind of give it that vibe as well, just the style of illustration and the way that it's drawn. But my mom does not do horror, and she really enjoyed this. So highly recommend this one. I think that it has a really good message to share. Okay, and then I finished another book that I had started in December of last year, and that is Murtagh. This is the newest book in the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. This is the deluxe edition, which is the version that I read, because it does have some like extra content at the back, which I really enjoyed. But this story, we follow Murtagh, who is a side character in the first 4 books of the Inheritance Cycle. I can't really say too much about this because it will spoil some really, really major reveals and plot points from the original series. But I really enjoyed it. I will say that this one is very slow burn in the way that the story unfolds and the plot develops. And it is definitely not a completed story. It definitely leaves so much open, as Christopher Paolini, I feel like, is really good at doing. There is so much that could still happen in a follow-up to this book. I feel like he's left a lot of avenues for further like further plot lines to be developed. But I really, really enjoyed this. It was everything that I wanted in a continuation, especially with Murtag's story. We got to see a lot of his mental state and the way that he is dealing with things that occurred in the in the first four books in the inheritance cycle, and especially the ending of it. And we get to see him kind of having, again, I feel like there is a lot more that he can do and say and learn, but we do get to see some character development here as the story goes on, and him starting to come to certain realizations about himself and the way that he is reacting to things. And I think that actually he has a pretty healthy mindset in a lot of ways, which is surprising, again, based on things that happened in the first four books. And I just really enjoyed it. But like I said, it is definitely a slow burn sort of story. There is a lot of buildup, a lot of mystery. You're trying to figure out exactly what's going on in here. As Murtag is, you're uncovering things along with him as he is learning things. And it's just really nice to be back in Allegatia and to see how things have changed since the ending of Inheritance. And I really, really am convinced that Christopher Paolini is not through with this world, that he has so much more to write about, and I'm so looking forward to it. My hope going forward is that there will be a lot more Aragon and Saphira, because I love them and I need more of them in the future. And it seems like, based on the way this ends, and especially the bonus chapter at the back of the deluxe edition, I don't know if that's included in other editions of this book or not, because this is the one that I read and I haven't cracked them open to compare. But I think that it is definitely setting up the potential for Aragon to play a much bigger role in books going forward than he did in this one. He wasn't really present throughout the story, just, existing in the background. But I really enjoyed it. I really like slow burn stories. I don't have to have a ton of action to be invested, as long as I'm invested in the characters. Now, yes, action is great. Obviously, it's entertaining, it's nerve-wracking, but there is something about this story and the way that Christopher Paolini does it, where you are super invested in the characters, but also this creeping sense of unease where you, along with Murtag, know that things are not right and there is something wrong, and you're trying to figure out what it is. And you're also kind of thinking, maybe you should just leave, maybe you should just get out of there. But I don't know. I really liked it. I really like seeing Murtag's, as I said, inner state, because it is from his perspective, not in first person, but just as a very close third person following him. And seeing, the trauma and the struggles that he is still going through, but also seeing the way that he is trying to do better and the way that he is trying to, he knows some of his reactions are not logical and some of the things that he's thinking or saying or doing are not correct. And just that ability to recognize those flaws in himself, I just really liked seeing that. And I'm really looking forward to more in the Inheritance cycle. It's one of my favorite fantasy series ever. And while I didn't love this quite as much as the original 4 books, I still loved it very much and am very much looking forward to more. Okay, so then I have some manga. So next I finished volume 1 of Lucille Has a Dream by Yu Morikawa. So this is the only volume of this that is out in English so far. I'm not sure if there are any more chapters or volumes that are out in Japan. I really don't know. I think the series might be on a hiatus. I'm not sure though, so don't quote me on that. But this was really interesting. I really liked it more and more as I went through it. We follow a child named Lucille, who is basically living in a post-apocalyptic type of world, we think. Essentially, the world that he is traveling through has basically been overtaken by nature, and he has not been able to find another human except for Claude, who claims that he is a 500-year-old wizard and is the one who woke Lucille up from cold sleep, which is essentially like cryo sleep. He found Lucille's pod, woke him up, let him out of the pod, And they have been traveling together since. And Lucille is trying to determine what happened to the world because he has lost all of his memories from before Claude woke him up. He doesn't remember having a family. He doesn't remember why he was put into cold sleep. So he is trying to determine what has happened, where all of the other humans have gone. And they're traveling through this world, and the scenery is just absolutely breathtaking. Like, let me just show you an example. The amount of detail in these illustrations with the plant life and nature is just so beautiful to look at. And seeing the way that it has kind of taken over these human, like, civilizations that they're traveling through, it's really setting up this mystery. And we do see there is a little bit of development in here, but they haven't really figured much out, although we are starting to get hints of things that are going on with Claude. And we're starting to see his and Lucille's relationship develop, because at the beginning it's very much like, it's not antagonistic at all, but Claude is just kind of aloof. Lucille travels with him, they take care of each other in a way, but Claude mostly just wants to sleep all the time. He doesn't really care what Lucille does. And we see their relationship developing, and we see some hints at things that might be going on, but at this point I really don't know much at all. And I'm really, really intrigued. Like, I think that this does a really good job of setting up this interest in trying to figure out what has happened and trying to figure out why the world is the way it is and what happened to Lucille, why he's lost his memories, what's going on with Claude. Is he really 500 years old? Is he really a wizard? You know, that sort of thing. So I have so many questions, and I think that that is a really good place to be after a first volume in a manga series, is to immediately want to continue. However, unfortunately, there are no more of this out yet so far, and there haven't been any more announced with pre-order dates. So again, I think the series is on hiatus, but I really hope that it resumes soon and that we get another volume in English, because I really want to find out what's going on. Like, I'm super intrigued. Then I read 2 volumes in a manga series that I have been reading for a while that I very much enjoy, and that is The Case Study of Vanitas by Jun Mochizuki. So I read volumes 9 and 10. This series I have talked about before on my channel, but we follow our 2 main characters, Noe, who is a vampire. So this series does take place in an alternate version of our world. And specifically, we are in Paris. So Noe is traveling to Paris because he's heard a rumor that, or he's gotten information that the Book of Vanitas can be found there. So the Book of Vanitas is an artifact believed to be owned by the vampire of the Blue Moon, who goes by the name Vanitas. So most vampires are born under the Red Moon, but Vanitas has been born under the Blue Moon. And the other vampires are very scared of the vampire of the Blue Moon because they believe that this vampire has the power to kind of control them using their book. And so Noe is traveling to Paris in search of this book, and he ends up meeting a human who goes by the name of Vanitas and claims to possess the Book of Vanitas. So the 2 end up teaming up. There is this strange affliction that is affecting vampires where they suddenly lose control of themselves. They have abnormal powers and abilities, and suddenly are basically going on killing sprees, attacking other humans and other vampires kind of uncontrollably. And Vanitas claims that he has the power to save them, to restore their true name to themselves, or to them, so that he can cure them. So Noe and Vanitas team up, and they're trying to help these vampires figure out what is causing these afflictions that are affecting them. And I just love this series so much. I think in these 2 volumes we see some real character growth with Vanitas specifically, but also with Noe and their relationship together. We get a lot more backstory about Vanitas, which we have had some in the past, but I've gotten a lot more now that has filled in a lot of gaps and a lot of questions. And I think that they have made a real breakthrough in their relationship with one another and their ability to trust one another. And I just love this series so much. It's vampires in alternate Paris. There are steampunk elements. It is so beautifully illustrated. I just love it so much. I need the next 2 volumes to come out. Volume 11 I have already pre-ordered. Volume 12 is not up for pre-order yet, which is so frustrating because I do like to read at least 2 volumes together since they're so short. But we are starting a new arc now. The way that it left off, I'm like, oh, some characters have returned that were in a past arc, and I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's going on? And yeah, I'm super excited, super excited. Um, we also got some character development for another character who I'm not gonna say who, because I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought that that was really interesting seeing their kind of motivations and their insecurities. Um, and yeah, I love this series so much. I want more of it. I want more of it now. I need more. So, yeah, I'm really happy to have read these, but now it's like when you are caught up on a series you love and then you're kind of like coming down off that high and you're like, I don't know what to do with myself now because I need more of this. Okay, then I started a new series, which is You Can Have My Back by Minami Katsuna. And this is illustrated by Hitomi Hitoyo. So this series, or this book, because it is the first in I believe a trilogy, um, it is not what I expected exactly going into it. But essentially, we follow Ionia, who I'm sorry. We follow Leorino Cassio. So Leorino or Leorino, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it, is the youngest son of Margrave, the youngest son of a Margrave in this kingdom. And he has been blessed with extraordinary beauty. He also has dreams depicting the life of someone he's never met, a boy named Ionia. And the more that he has these dreams and the more that he ages and the more he learns about Ionia, he realizes that Ionia was potentially a real person, a knight who lost his life defending their kingdom. And he also sees someone else in his dreams, Ionia's best friend, Prince, who turns out to be Prince Gravis. And so there is a connection there because Leorino discovers or comes to the conclusion that he is the reincarnation of Ionia. So obviously we have a setup for like the return of a lost love, a romance for the ages kind of setting, but that's not exactly how it's going so far. There were a lot of things in here that were kind of uncomfortable. They were characters who were doing things and reacting in ways that were not healthy reactions. Like Leorino is meeting a lot of people from Ionia's past, and there are people who are responding to him in ways that they would have responded to Ionia, who was aware of them and knew them. There were also things from Ionia's life, like flashbacks, where there is a lot of dubcon. Well, I won't say a lot, but there is some dubcon in here. And I did not like that. I think that that was extremely unnecessary for the development of the story. I feel like it could have definitely gone in a slightly different direction and still maintained the same core to it. So I did not like that. I am going to continue it because I am really intrigued, and I think that Gravis and where he is at the end of the story has made me really want to continue it and see what's going to happen next. And I also have I kind of figured out something that Leorino figures out in here about Ionia's death kind of early on. I at least had my suspicions, and Leorino now has those same suspicions that I had, so I do want to see where that goes. So I will continue this eventually. I'm not really feeling the urge to like jump right into the next book because again, there were just some things with certain characters that really bugged me. But overall, I do want to continue it because I think the story is really interesting and I really like Leorino's character. There were just parts, and I'm not saying that anyone in here is like any of these characters are bad necessarily, just some of the things that they do that they're justifying to themselves aren't great. There is someone in here who's definitely bad, but he gets taken care of. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I do want to continue it, but probably just gonna wait till I'm kind of in the mood to keep going. yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a ton more to say about it at this point because while it is quite long, it is just the first book, and I don't really know how much I can say without spoiling it. Um, but yeah, I didn't love it as much as I would hope. I hoped I would love it. I was like, oh, a reincarnation love story. This is going to be so nice and lovely and, very emotional. And while it is, it's also not so far, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if any of that was coherent. I just like my thoughts on this are just so hard kind of to put together because while I did like some aspects of it, again, other parts I thought were completely unnecessary and it just wasn't exactly what I expected. So, I don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment for after I finish the second book and then see how I feel about that. Okay, so then after that, I wanted something really fluffy, and this had just arrived at my house, and I was so excited to continue this series. So this is a manhwa series. It is translated from Chinese, and that is I Ship My Rival X Me comic. So I did read volume 2 of this. It is based on a novel series or a novel, I'm not sure which, by Peppa, and is being adapted into a manhwa by Qualia. I love this series so much. Like I said, volume 2 had just come out and just gotten to my house because I had pre-ordered it. And I was like, you know what? I just want something really fluffy and sweet and feel good. And that is exactly what this series is. So we follow two young idols in China. Gu Yiliang and Wei Yanzi. So Wei Yanzi and Gu Yiliang have kind of come onto the scene at the same time, and for some reason their fans online have struck up a rivalry. So they dislike each other, they say nasty things about the opposing actor slash idol, particularly Gu Yiliang's fans do not like Wei Yanzi. And so Wei Yanzi has kind of some insecurities about his abilities as an idol. He thinks that he is only doing well because of his looks. He doesn't think, for example, that he's a very good actor. And he also is just kind of being put down a lot by this rivalry between their fans. Even though the two of them have not really had very much interaction in the past, and all of those interactions have been very cordial. So one day, Wei Yanzi discovers that there is a third group of their fans who are both of them and actually ship them together as a couple. And Wei Yanzi sees how kind these people are to one another, how positive they are about both of them, how this imaginary ship is just so positive and feel good. And so he ends up becoming a part of this ship, which is a little odd because he is part of the couple that's being shipped. But this all occurs at the same time that he and Gu Yiliang are actually working together to film a period drama. So they actually start interacting on a sort of more personal level for the first time and start to become friends, become close, and maybe these signs and these things that these shippers are noticing are not actually completely off base. Maybe there might be something there. And it's just so cute. I love it so much. I think we have a lot of progression in this one. I will say, I am not a fan of the miscommunication trope in romance stories in particular, but just in general, I really dislike it. However, in this series, it's not really miscommunication. I mean, it is. But it's not that they are just refusing to talk about each other or talk to each other. It's just that they are misunderstanding each other. But we as the reader get to kind of see both of their perspectives, because while most of the first two volumes are from Wei Yanzi's perspective, there are chapters from Gu Yiliang's which give us insight and make it so that we interpret his behavior different than Wei Yanzi is. And they're just so cute. There is nothing that is going on between these two that seems very problematic. They're just adorable. They're really goofy and silly. And I mean, they do have we're seeing progression to their relationship. We're seeing especially from Gu Yiliang, starting to care more, and it's just really sweet and really wholesome and feel good, and I love it so much. There are references to more mature material, not that's occurring, but through Wei Yanzi's exploration of the online shipping community, he comes across things such as fan fictions and whatnot that are a bit more mature. So, there are like those like mentions of that kind of content, but the story itself is just really wholesome and sweet, and I love it so much. I cannot wait till volume 3 comes out, but it was just exactly what I needed. It was all the fluff and all of, as Wayanza says, all the sugar that I was looking for. So I love it. I cannot recommend this to you enough. If you are a romance reader and if you are a shipper, then this will really, like, you will understand a lot that's going on. And I know that, it's completely different to ship real people than to ship fictional characters. But just like in the context of this fictional story, it's just really cute. It's just really cute, and I love it. All right, so then in honor of Valentine's Day, I read another romance, which is Us in Ruins by Rachel Moore. This has been on my TBR for a while. I've really wanted to read Rachel Moore's books. She has another called The Library of Shadows that I'm also really interested in. But I really enjoyed this. This was so much fun. It has like mummy vibes. It's, if you are into archaeology, if you like Greek/Roman mythology, this one is Roman, but it was just so much fun. It is a YA, and it's definitely written like a YA, but in a way that like the main character is not annoying. She is actually quite lovable. She has these different insecurities, and I found her pretty relatable in a lot of ways. She is a teenager, and it's just really cute. But essentially, we follow. Let me make sure I've got the. Okay, yeah. We follow Margot, who has joined a school trip for her. She goes to a boarding school for high school, and she's joined the archaeology group on their school trip to Rome because she is trying to search for the vase of Venus Aurelia, which is a mystical artifact that is said if you can find the different pieces and put it together in the correct location, you'll get your wish granted. And she has a secret weapon. She has the journal of Van Keen, who was a teenage explorer who was searching for the vase in the 30s. Yeah, in the 30s. And so Margot has his journal, and she is determined that she is going to find this vase and get a wish. However, what she finds instead is a very, very lifelike statue of Van Keen himself. And unwittingly, Margot accidentally brings the statue to life and learns that it is actually Van Keen. So the two of them end up kind of teaming up. Van is obviously displaced from time. He is suddenly not in the 30s. Suddenly he is in modern Rome, and has, no, they're in Rome, right? No. He finds her in Pompeii. Yeah, or she finds him in Pompeii. So he is in modern Italy, modern Pompeii, and Margot suddenly has to deal with him while also trying to find the vase, not get in trouble. It's a teenage romance version of like if you were, of like, it does have a lot of mummy vibes to it with the sorts of like the magic that we see in here and the sorts of like challenges they have to go through. And it's really cute, and I just really enjoyed the romance. I thought it was really wholesome. There was a part at the end, at the very, very end, that I was like, that particular character still being here, the way that it kind of like wraps up with a particular antagonist, I was like, that seems a little unrealistic. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed this. I actually think that my mom should read it because she also is really into archaeology and loves a good romance, and it was just really, really cute. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that, like I said, Margot she's definitely a YA protagonist, and she's written like one, but she's also quite relatable in a lot of ways, and I found her to be a believable character in a lot of ways as well. I mean, of course, it's very over the top, very dramatic. If you've ever watched Indiana Jones or The Mummy, then you know what I mean with that style of story, and the shenanigans that they get themselves involved in. But I did really like it, and I really liked the romance. I thought it was sweet. And the setting. I wish I had read this in the summer because it does take place in the Italian summertime. And it's just, I have been to Italy, and this makes me want to go back so much. But I thought that the setting was beautiful. The romance was very sweet. It's kind of like an enemies to lovers in a way, more like rivals to lovers. They're never really enemies, so more like rivals, antagonists to lovers. But it's just cute. I just really liked it. And I really liked the way that these two, like I said, both have insecurities and things that they're dealing with that you uncover going forward. And I just really liked it. And I'm really excited to read more of Rachel Moore's work. And I'm really glad that I read this, although I do think it would be more, the atmosphere would match more with summertime. I am still really glad that I read it. Okay, and then I started another new series, because of course I did, which is Lout of Count's Family by Yu Ryeo Han. Ryeo. I'm so sorry, I believe that the author is Korean, and I am very unfamiliar with pronouncing Korean names. But this is a novel series. It is an isekai, and I did read the first 2 volumes. And I really enjoyed this. This is just really fun. So it is an isekai or transmigration because our main character, Kim Raksu, wakes up as a character in a novel series that he was reading. However, he is not the main character, he is a side character. Kale Hinatuse, the son of a very wealthy count, who is not well liked in the novel series because of his kind of selfish, self-centered behavior. So our new Kale decides that he is going to ensure that he gets to live an easygoing life of luxury. However, there are some things that he needs to do first to make sure that the plot of the novel is not going to disrupt that, because there are a lot of things brewing in this kingdom, including potentially war. And this is just really fun. Kale is a very, very competent protagonist. He is very, very intelligent, very good at getting what he wants, at getting people to do what he wants. He is very good at being charismatic, but in a way that is unexpected. So the original, like I said, Kale Hinatuse is very disliked and very kind of looked down on by most people, or avoided by them, or, as I said, just straight up, they just dislike him. But our new Kale Hinatuse, he thinks, and this is a trope you see in a lot of isekai, where the person who's been isekai thinks that the previous opinions, or the opinions towards the previous version of whatever character they have become, are going to color everything going forward. However, because they are a new person and they're behaving differently, people's opinions change, and they don't always recognize that. And you see that a lot in this series, particularly in the first book. But it's just so funny and so fun to see Kale getting all of these people who are wholeheartedly devoted and loyal to him and not recognizing that loyalty necessarily. And seeing people who are just so determined that he is a good person, and yet he himself is trying to justify, like, oh, the only reason I'm doing this is so that they'll help me later. Or the only reason that I'm doing this is to make sure that, like, if their life isn't easy, my life isn't going to be easy. You know, that sort of thing. And it's like he's almost determined to deny that he's a good person. And it's just so fun. I really enjoy it. There are a lot of overpowered characters in here. It's very over the top. There's a lot of political maneuvering and just Kale, you know, outmaneuvering people, and it's just really, really fun. I thought the first 2 books were great. I have actually since read the 3rd book, which is the most recent one that has come out so far, and I have pre-ordered more. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying this. It's so fun, so easy to read. You fly through these books, and yeah, I love it. I think that it's the kind of isekai story that I adore. So, really having a fun time with this so far. Alright, and then last I have a big ol' stack of Sasaki and Miyano. So I was determined that I was going to catch completely up on Sasaki and Miyano this year, and I have done so, and I'm so happy that I did. So Sasaki and Miyano is a series by Sho Harusono where we follow 2 high school students Miyano and Sasaki. Miyano is a year younger than Sasaki. When the series starts, Sasaki is a second year and Miyano is a first year in high school. And they meet when Sasaki saves one of Miyano's classmates from being beaten up by bullies. And Sasaki is pretty instantly smitten with Miyano, and he really starts like making an effort to get to know him and spend time with him and become friends with him. And Miyano is trying to figure out how he feels about Sasaki in return. And it's so cute. This is one of the most wholesome romances I've ever read in my entire life. It is so precious. I love it so much. I think that the relationships, not only between Sasaki and Miyano, but between them and their friends, are so just beautiful. We see so much acceptance from their friends towards them and who they like and what they choose to do with their lives, and just so much support, and it's just such a happy, wonderful series. And obviously you know where it's going, you know, because it is a romance. So we've seen so much progression since the first volume. I did read volumes 9 and 10, which are the two most recent volumes out in the main series, and it's just so beautiful. I love it so much. I love, now that Sasaki and his peers are in college, like, I love that we get to keep seeing them. Obviously, Sasaki's going to be there forever. But we've added some new characters because Sasaki has made a new friend in college. Miyano has a new member in his friend group. I love that we got to see Hanzawa again. I love Hanzawa so much, and the section with him was so much fun. And I just love how close they are with one another, this whole group of guys. And the way that, like, they just genuinely happy to hang out with and to see each other, and the way they genuinely care about each other and support one another. It's just beautiful. I hope going forward we see more of the senpai group. I want more Hirano. Ogasawara, I want more Ogasawara. We did get to see him in here, and we got to see Hirano just like a tiny bit, but I wanted more Hirano. I want more Hanzawa. I just love it so much. It's so good. And then I started the Hirano and Kagiura series. So it does start out with a light novel called Hirano and Kagiura, which was novelized by Kotoko Hachijo, and illustrated by Shoharu Sono. So from what I understand, Shoharu Sono came up with the concepts and Kotoko Hachijo just turned them into a novel version. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I understood of this. I will say, I feel like, not necessarily in this one, so I guess I'll save that for a little bit. But it was interesting to get to see, because Hirano is kind of a pretty prominent side character in the main series of Sasaki and Miyano, because he is one of Sasaki's friends. He's also one of Miyano's friends, because he and Miyano are in the same club in high school. And we hear about Kagiura, who is Hirano's roommate. So this series follows the two of them because they don't commute to school, they live in the dorms, and they are roommates. And this is following their relationship and them getting to know each other. So in the light novel, we get to see kind of their first interactions with each other, from when Kagiura moves in to kind of that first sort of year that they're together, or at least the first few months that they're living together. And then we move on to the manga series. So there are only 4 volumes out in Hirano and Kagiura so far, and I did read all 4 of these. There they are. And it's just really fun. I love Hirano so much, and Kagi-kun is adorable. I think that I'm super interested. So this is way behind where Sasaki and Miyano is in the timeline. This series starts kind of at this, a little bit before Sasaki and Miyano does, because Kagiura is also a first year at the beginning, so he is in the same year as Miyano, and this starts at the very beginning of the year when they meet, whereas Sasaki and Miyano starts like when Kagiura moves in and school begins that year, whereas Sasaki and Miyano starts a little later than that, in that same year. So the progression is going much slower. Like, we have only just now at volume 4 finished their Kagiura's first year, so his and Miyano's first year in school. And it's just so cute. again, I just love it. It's so wholesome seeing the two of them. I think that the healthiness of the relationships is also so important because nobody ever does anything that another character is not going to agree with or approve of. They're always asking for permission to do things or hesitating to do something because they're afraid they're going to step over some sort of boundary. And I think that they it's just so nice. It's just so nice and I love it so much. It's so good. So I know that there's going to be more in the Hirano and Kaguya spinoff. I just don't know when, but I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later because I got so, like, just reading all of these back to back, I just got so sucked into this world and I love these boys so, so, so much. And I just want them all to be happy and I just want to keep seeing them be happy. And I would be happy if this series went on forever, both the main series and the spinoff. So yeah, I love it. I love it so much. If you read Sasuke and Mino, so I do not recommend reading Hirano and Kaguya until you have read Sasuke and Mino. But if you read the main series, you really do also need to read the spinoff because it's beautiful and lovely and it really gives you a lot of insight into what's going on with Hirano while the whole Sasuke Mino situation is developing. And seeing Kaguya and Hirano's relationship is just so precious and adorable. And we're not at the point of a romantic relationship at this point. Like, you know pretty much from very early on in Volume 1 that Kaguya is absolutely interested in Hirano. But Hirano is still trying to figure stuff out. So I love it. It's so sweet. Then there are 2 other light novels in the series. So Sasuke and Mino First Years and Second Years, again novelized by Kotoko Hachijo. I enjoyed these because we get insight into different events and characters who we don't always get a lot of perspective from in the main series. So including Kurosawa, and we get to learn about his girlfriend and how they met, and Tashiro with the blonde hair and the green sweater. And I thought that was really fun, so I did appreciate these for that and for different scenes that we don't see in the main series. However, I think that some of the characterizations in here were not exactly spot on with the way the characters are displayed and presented and developed in the manga. So that did kind of bother me a little bit, but I did, like I said, enjoy getting different insight into events and characters who we don't always get a ton of background for. Like, learning about Kurosawa's girlfriend was really fun. But again, Kurosawa was one of those characters that I just think the way that he was, like the way his internal dialogue went in here just didn't match the character of him that I see in the manga. And I don't know how much of that is due to translation, and how much of that is just due to the way Kotoko Hachijo interpreted these characters, but I did enjoy the stories. I just didn't agree always with things the characters would say, things that they would do, the way that they would behave. But I do think that these are worth reading if you're a big fan of Sasuke and Mino. And then the final book that I finished in the first quarter of this year is Sasuke and Mino, the official comic anthology. So this is a collection of stories in manga form that are done by these creators. And I don't recognize any of these names except for Shoharu Sono. I did see that a couple of them are creators of series that are kind of like on my want to try list, but I've never read anything from any of these creators. It was really fun to read these stories. I'm assuming that they're canonical because it is the official comic anthology, so I'm assuming that these stories are canonical, but I can't say that for sure. But they were just really fun to read. Each of these artists, or each of these little short stories that these creators came up with surrounding Sasuke and Mino and their friends. I do think that it kind of weirded me out at times because some of these people draw in a very, very different style from Shoharu Sono. Some of them, I think, did put in a lot of effort to make it as close to the original style of the manga as they could while still maintaining their own unique take on it, but some of them were just so different, and it kind of weirded me out just a little bit seeing them look so much not like themselves. But I did still really, really enjoy it. And there are some chapters that are by Sho Harusono in here as well. So again, that's another reason I'm thinking that these are canonical. Um, but yeah, it was really fun to read. I'm so glad that I'm caught up on Sasuke and Mino now, because it just makes me so happy, and it's one of my favorite romances and genuinely just one of my favorite series. So I'm looking forward to more. I don't know when we'll get it, but I'm patiently and not so patiently waiting. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read in the first quarter, or at least that I finished in the first quarter. I think I had a really good time. I liked everything that I read. You Can Have My Back was probably the one that I liked the least, but I did still enjoy it. It's just that there were, again, parts that I felt that bothered me, that I felt were unnecessary. But I did like the story overall enough that I do want to continue it. So yeah, really nice quarter for reading. I had a really good time. Um, and I am looking forward to just continuing to pick up things that I think I'm going to enjoy. That's kind of my goal this year. Part of my goal is to make some progress on series, which obviously I started a couple here, but I've also made some progress. Like, I'm caught up on Sasuke and Mino, I'm caught up on the Inheritance Cycle. Um, but I also am just trying to really just pick up books that I'm in the mood for reading and that I'm really excited to read, and I'm just having a great time. It's wonderful. So yeah, I would love to know what you've been reading lately, what you read the first quarter of this year, what you're reading now. If you've read anything that you've really enjoyed or really excited about, even though my TBR is phenomenally long, I would love to hear about anything that you recommend that you've read recently. If you've read any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Just again, please keep all comments spoiler free. Or if me talking about these has made you interested in checking any of them out, I would love to hear that too. I love to recommend things to people and to help them find new stories that they are going to love. It makes me really happy, so I'd love to hear about it. Or if you start any of these, please let me know what you think of them, because again, I'd love to know. But yeah, if you want to leave an emoji, let's pick your favorite flower emoji just in honor of all of the spring vibes. And Sasuke and Mino has just some beautiful covers. And I have started the candy art book, like flipping through it. I look through it a little bit here and there. And the cover is so beautiful. The amount of like floral details and stuff, it's so pretty. So yeah, pick your favorite flower emoji if you want to leave an emoji with your comment. Or if you just want to let me know that you were here but you don't have anything to say, you can put some flowers down there. We'll have a beautiful little flower field in the comments. But I really love talking to you guys. It really does make me happy to talk to you guys about books and stories. And yeah, so I love to see all of your comments each week. But yeah, so that's all that I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye! Snoodle around. Do you like your toy?